Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And since this week is Shark Week, we're doing the 1975 horror mystery thriller Jaws. Here is your trivia question for today. What is the name of Quint's ship in the film? The answer will be at the end of this video. Our film takes place on Amity Island, where it is the July 4th celebration. We have a swimmer that's going out into the ocean, and all of a sudden she is attacked by something in the water. Unfortunately, she ends up dead, and her body is found on the beach. We meet our main character, Sheriff Brody, played by Roy Scheider, who is investigating this and trying to figure out what exactly happened. Once it is discovered that it was a shark that did the attack, he is soon joined by Matt Hooper, who is an oceanographer, played by Richard Dreyfuss. Now, the entire time this is going on, the mayor is trying to cover everything up as he does not want beachgoers to leave so that they don't get the money for the season. Then another attack occurs as a small child is eaten by a shark. This sends the entire town into an uproar as they all go shark crazy and end up catching one, which they believe is the one that did the killing, but we all know this one's a bit too small. The evidence that that was the wrong shark continues to pile up as the fishing boat and body of Ben Gardner are found. It seems as though the final straw is when the shark almost gets Brody's own son. Brody and Hooper then team up with Quint, who is a local fisherman that, for a large sum of money, has guaranteed he will kill the shark. So the three of them head off on his boat to go and find the shark. They end up discovering, though, it's a lot bigger than they were expecting. Now, will our three heroes be able to stop the man-eating shark, or will it get them as its next meal? For the most part, the movie is based off of the novel Jaws by Peter Benchley. Apparently, Spielberg, after reading the book, figured that he actually sided more with the shark as most of the characters were so unlikable. For instance, in the book, there's an affair that occurs between Hooper and Mrs. Brody for some reason, and the real reason why the beach is not being closed is the mafia is pushing the mayor to keep it open so they can make their money. The movie was actually filmed at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. John Williams, of course, did the famous score for the film. What's really funny, though, is the first time he showed Steven Spielberg the now very well known music for Jaws, he laughed at it. He thought it was ridiculous. Boy, was he proven wrong. Jaws is technically the first summer blockbuster, as 67 million people saw it when it was first released. Steven Spielberg was the director for this film, but they originally wanted Dick Richards to be the director. What's funny is Richards apparently kept saying whale instead of shark as he was describing scenes, and they felt that he was just a moron about it, so they didn't have him continue. Apparently, Michael Winner and also John Sturgis were possibilities as well. Apparently, the author, Peter Benchley, had a few ideas as to what actors he wanted to play the three main characters. Those included Robert Redford, Paul Newman, and Steve McQueen. That didn't end up happening, but that could have been interesting. Roy Scheider, who does a wonderful job as Sheriff Brody, in my opinion, could have been played by these other actors: Charlton Heston, Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman, and Joe Bologna. Lorraine Gary, who plays Ellen Brody, could have been played by Linda Harrison or Victoria Principal. Richard Dreyfuss plays Matt Hooper, but a lot of actors were apparently up for that role, including Kevin Kline, Jeff Bridges, Timothy Bottoms, Jon Voight, Dustin Hoffman, Jan Michael Vincent, and Joel Grey. Robert Shaw is such a great Quint, but that character may have also gone to Lee Marvin, Sterling Hayden, Robert Mitchum, Oliver Reed, or Richard Boone. They apparently knew from the very beginning that they wanted Murray Hamilton to play the mayor. One of the biggest reasons why Quint and Hooper probably had great chemistry is because Dreyfuss and Shaw actually hated each other on set. So it worked well that both of their characters were usually opposed to each other. This is something I found hilarious. All of the extras in the beach scene were not actually told what the film was about. So when Roy Scheider comes screaming out of nowhere going, "Shark! Shark!" they all actually panicked. Here's one thing I did not realize at all at first. Ben Gardner, the fisherman who is one of the first people that Hooper interacts with, is the same person they find dead in the boat later. Throughout the production, there were three mechanical sharks that were used. Now, unfortunately, they used to screw up so often that Spielberg would call them the Great White Turds. Also, though, Spielberg did give an actual nickname to the shark in the film, and that name is Bruce. And that name comes from Spielberg's lawyer. There's also a really nice reference to this in Finding Nemo, as the big shark in that movie is named Bruce because of the one in this movie. Here's another fun homage to this film. There's a line that says, "That's some bad hat, Harry." J.J. Abrams actually named his production company Bad Hat Harry and uses the likenesses of the characters in this film for that company. There's a horrible part of me that would have loved to have seen this, but apparently before doing a movie, they had talked about doing a Jaws television series, where apparently every week there was a special guest star that would get eaten by the shark. Now, you may or may not have thought about this, but the name Amity Island does in fact come from the Amityville Horrors. The license plate that they take out of the tiger shark says 007, and this is Spielberg's reference to James Bond, as he always wanted to make a James Bond film. Peter Benchley has stated that he never would have written this book had he known what bad stigma sharks would get afterwards, due to the fact that sharks rarely ever actually attack people in real life. The story that Quint tells about the USS Indianapolis is actually based off of a real event that occurred. There was at one point talks of having the end of the film being Brody blow up the shark, and then he notices a bunch of fins out in the water. This movie has a body count of 8. 5 people, 1 dog, and 2 sharks. Now, if you love Jaws and can't get enough of it, you have lots of options to spend your time. For instance, there's the obvious other sequels. It does actually have a few different video game options. Aside from the original novel, when it comes to reading, it definitely has a few different comic book variations. There is a board game, and there's even a musical called Bruce that is about the making of Jaws that is either already out or is going to be coming to stages at some time soon. One thing that I've heard of that I've always wanted to do is like a drive-in theater. There are apparently some places that have it out in front of the water where you can actually watch Jaws while floating in a pool or something like that, and I absolutely want to do that one day. So when it comes to the film Jaws, I absolutely love this movie. It's so good, even to this day. And honestly, I believe that this movie is the prime reason why we have so many animal attack movies. And some are good, some are bad, but I'm going to have to give this movie a 5 out of 5. And now for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What is the name of Quint's ship in the film? In the film, it is called the Orca, which is very fitting, as an orca, or a killer whale, is the only known predator of the great white shark. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.